Good afternoon, everybody. It's Lorraine Alternative Homesteading on April 17, 2025, and I'm going to record part 7 of Deborah Florian's West Virginia horror story, her real estate mobbing saga. And it's worth listening to, especially if you own property or if you're a targeted person or both. But before I get into it, please remember to hit the thumbs up. You can share. And thank you all for your questions and comments on the last 2 videos I posted. They're from 6 years ago. The one with Karen Stewart and Michael Barden. They're both still around, by the way. People keep asking me. Karen Stewart is alive, but she's obviously departed from the community. Both of her parents passed away shortly, pretty much, I guess maybe 6 months, 7 months apart from each other. It's kind of very, very common in very long-term marriages where one partner passes away and then shortly thereafter the other one does. So I'm sure she's been really busy with that. And I guess she kind of separated from the community maybe 6 to 9 months after the TJ lawsuit. So she is okay. To the best of my knowledge, we would hear about it if she were not. And I'm sure she wants her privacy and all that, but she was definitely a warrior, goddess of the community, and I so appreciate all the videos, interviews, and those stellar flyers that she gave me back in 2018. So, and also the other video, well, I'm not going to say it all the time, you know, that Ella person, which is not her real name. Her real name is Airly Felder, but Felder is not even her last name anymore since she's divorced. That was her married name. So, and for all those people who say, oh no, her videos were taken down, blah, blah, blah. No, YouTube did not remove any of her videos. They were voluntarily taken down by her. And I know for a fact because when I would look for certain videos, YouTube would give this error message that the video was removed by the uploader. Okay, you're not going to get that anymore because the channel's gone, the website's gone, the domain name is for sale. So you could use your imagination about what happened there, you know. So there are people in the community that do things like that. They're not really targeted people, and I won't say anything else about that. The weather's really nice here. Well, I can't really say nice. It was nice this morning before they sprayed the skies, and now the sky is completely white. And I hear Zoomy. Of course, as soon as I start recording, Zoomy is at my front door, but he can stay there for a little while because he's been out now for hours and refuses to go inside. It's not windy, so he can stay out for a little while longer. And I'm going to tell you, you know, it's sort of like the night before Christmas around here. You know, the night before Christmas? When all through the house, not a creature was stirring, not even a mouse. It is so quiet around here, except for the loud hums in the morning, the helicopters flying over, you know, to let me know that I just woke up and they have to let me know that I'm being surveilled. But no, my neighbors, you know, the poopy diaper, the poopynurse.com and the big mouth, they're all so quiet. I wonder if their contracts have been renewed. Maybe not. Maybe we've got new perpy derpy doopy doos. Or maybe it's just the boots on the ground, the terrain, what are they called? The human terrain teams. Was stated by Maria, who was interviewed by David A. couple of days ago. She called them human terrain teams. We've all been calling them boots on the ground, but yeah, they're human terrain teams. Well, I'm going to say that they're really not human. Because if they could be doing this to innocent people, they are lacking the traits and qualities of what it is like to be actually a human. Okay, so, and I don't care how much money they're getting paid. Nobody could pay me enough money to do this to somebody else. So anyway, yeah, it's been really quiet around here. But it doesn't mean that they have not been in and out of my house or the Cats building, and they have. It's just that the local, you know, the gift card whores, they haven't been visible. But, I mean, ironically, in our local newspaper, you know, our local judge executive, he's discussing flood damages and road funds and how much asphalt costs and what it has increased over the last few years, and how they've been meeting with FEMA representatives to hopefully get some reimbursement heading their way. And then they said that all allocations from the state have not gone up near enough to support the needs that we have with our roads. If our allocations from the state aren't going up anytime soon, we will need to start looking at ways to raise more revenue for road maintenance. Have a blessed week. Oh, well, Judge, I know where you're all getting your money from, huh? You're all banking on me, huh? Yeah. Well, why don't you actually apply for a few grants instead of thinking that they're going to show up on your front door? Like, you know, I guess it was in 2020 or 2021 where you sent me that letter saying, oh, well, FEMA designed the county road bridge that way, when after my FOIA request, you never did actually get anything from FEMA because you never requested anything. So it was a lie. So anyway, I can think of a lot of ways that you can raise money for the roads. How about this? Let's start with, and I can give you a list of names of who's damaging the road in front of my house, screeching their cars, cutting up the asphalt, cutting up the roads. I have witnessed and recorded people driving on the concrete in front of my house. Let's start with the local neighbors that are deliberately damaging your county roads. Let's start that way. We could save a lot of money if we decrease the traffic on this rural road. Okay? Decrease the traffic at 2 o'clock in the morning, 4 o'clock in the morning, 3 o'clock in the morning, screeching, halting, oil dripping all over the roads, cracks, scrapes. That's a good place to start. How about that? Okay, so now we're going to talk about my West Virginia horror story, part 7. Deborah Florian. The installation is a continuation of my chronicle of life at 48 Slonaker Lane, Berkeley Springs, West Virginia, as a targeted person, a single woman from the outside world who bought property among the locals. Oh my goodness, this is going to be good because it just sounds so familiar. Looking back, as of course hindsight is 2020, I was running the clock, waiting for a miracle. Not that I had any evidence that one was forthcoming. After everything that had already happened to me at 314 Hostler Road in Jefferson County and 17 Rocky Trail in Morgan County, I reasoned there would be some sort of relief. I had contacted authorities many times, but I was wrong. The possibility of getting a job wasn't an option. I could not commit to leaving the property on a predictable schedule. I would be targeted on that road. Disaster would be perpetrated upon the house with my animals inside. I would have been targeted at the workplace, which did occur after I lost the house, relocated to Martinsburg, and started working at Macy's Distribution Center. Classic example of workplace mobbing. But I'm getting ahead of myself, and yes, there will be several more installments to my story after this one. So we're already on part 7 here. So this is a saga, but we can learn from these stories. So I was existing in my own little world at 48 Slonaker Lane. I am the ultimate loner. And just give me the gift of animal companions and I'm set. I'm a reader, always have been. And the stunningly beautiful terrain in Sir John's could take one's mind off anything. I would sit outside, close my eyes, and go zen. But I started noticing a West Virginia State Police vehicle hovering around me when I'd drive into Berkeley Springs. It would be there, and over there. Of course, there's that issue of plausible deniability. But I was seeing the guy with far greater frequency than the law of averages would allow. Odd thing was, he looked a lot like Wade Shambar, the Morgan County Sheriff's deputy who responded to my 911 call on June 28, 2010. While my properties on Rocky Trail and Slonaker Lane were both in Morgan County, as is Berkeley Springs, it would probably be way against protocol for a sheriff's deputy to be driving around in a state police rig. And as I say, I saw this vehicle every time I went out. I think it's something of a fair guess that he was the high-ranking West Virginia state cop from the Berkeley Springs detachment who wound up being reassigned to desk duty one county away in late 2014. There was an article in the local paper, the Morgan Messenger, and it was glaringly obvious he wasn't happy about it, but I'm getting ahead of myself. I say that a lot, don't I? A lot of really alarming things were happening. Sir John's Run Road, which is the one road in and out of Sir John's, started becoming almost busy at times. That sounds familiar. Not residents' vehicles. They would hang a right onto Slonaker Lane at night, driving fast, one after the other. A perfect round hole, large enough to use as a window, was cut out of a tangle of greenery at the base of Slonaker Lane. As soon as I pulled off my property, I was driving directly towards it. I stopped one day, got out of my truck to check it out. The inside was hollow. It was like a little room. A rear was open. There was an old kitchen chair. Someone had been using it to monitor my property, which was clearly visible from the thicket. That's exactly what they do. And of really alarming things were happening. Sir John's Run Road, which is the one road in and out of John's... Oh, wait. 1 second. I just scrolled past. 1 second. Okay, and at this point, I'd remind anyone taking this little trip with me that I had been giving evidence of what was going on to a LEO, meaning law enforcement officer. And not a local guy, God forbid. During this period, I was mailing him letters frequently. I even drew a little map of the thicket and its proximity to my property. I was kicking up a lot of dust. I would hope anyone in the situation I found myself in down in Sir John's would do the same. As I became more impoverished, none other than Dean Carpenter would take me on errands. To refresh, Dean was, and I'm sure he still is, funny how we assign past tense to people no longer in our orbit. The patriarch figure in Sir John's. He had lived there all his life and owned a lot of property in Sir John's and other locations in Morgan County. He owns a lot of land directly around my house that he used for gardening. And let me tell you, the folks in Sir John's have nothing to worry about during a SHTF situation. Dean would feed the whole community. If you had something of worth to barter, when I first moved in, he and I had a few heated conversations centering around the decommissioned state road that would look to an uninformed person to be a driveway to my house. I was good with it, though. I didn't park on it, just used it to get to the rear of the house, where I turn and park on undisputed ground. But in retrospect, Dean was pissed that I bought the property, that he had planned to eventually lowball the finance company who held the title into submission. There's no central heat, no well in the 100-year flood plan, so no chance of passing inspections. He thought he'd get it eventually, but then I bought it. Dean's attitude was getting snarkier and snarkier. I mentioned in my West Virginia horror story, part 6, that Dean was claiming to be related to Vince Shambaugh and or Vince's wife. Vince being the sheriff of Morgan County, with whom I shared something of a contentious relationship. Dean was doing a lot of that he giggling, disrespecting my fall from grace into poverty. But he wasn't like that all the time. One day Dean pulled up in his truck in front of my house to take me into Berkeley Springs for kerosene. I use kerosene heater as the primary source for heat, and an appointment at the DHHR office to arrange for assistance with my electric bill and funds for kerosene. And like I said, things were bad. As I opened the passenger door to get into the truck, I was shocked to see the state Dean was in. He looked like he'd been crying. Let me tell you, men like Dean don't, under normal circumstances, let themselves be seen like that. My first thought that was somebody in his family had died. No kidding. He was sporadically running his hands over his eyes, totally unhinged. And now, this is important, his glasses were gone. I don't think I've ever seen him without them. Even while working in his gardens with sweat pouring down his face, he had those glasses on. I said, Dean, you're not well. We can do this some other time. You would never think, if you knew Dean, you'd ever see him like this. What was even more amazing than the emotional display and the lack of glasses was his attitude. Snark. And he, and comments about Vince using zip ties on me were all completely gone, replaced by concern for me and my situation. Blubberingly so. I mean, an absolute, complete turnaround. I got help from the DHHR that day. Got the kerosene, and all that day Dean just couldn't have been nicer. Although I was somewhat concerned as to his or anyone's ability to navigate Sir John's Run Road without his glasses, he did so winningly. He'd probably be able to drive that road blind if he'd been there before. I didn't realize that day what had changed Dean's behavior, and I sure was in the dark about the glasses, but then it came to me. Now, there was no one to take up for me. That would require a man, God knows, not a local either, to browbeat Dean into submission, because that's what it was. And who had the balls to take his glasses? Remember, I make references about that Leo. In retrospect, I know he was keeping tabs on what was going on. And I've discovered, through reading a lot online, that he's a pretty edgy guy. It brings to mind that old Joe Cocker song, quote, I get by with a little help from my friends, unquote. So that realization felt good, but not for long. To be continued. So what do you think, men and women, boys and girls? What do you think happened to Dean's behavior? He was probably pulled aside by one of these criminals, right? Threatened, harassed him, probably stole his glasses from him. Said a lot of things to him. Threatened him with things about his past, right? Threatened maybe his family members and stuff. That's what these criminals do. It's like an extortion network. It's an organized crime, bullying, extortion network. And I know because I've experienced it here too. Where my witness and his 15-year-old son just suddenly disappear in the middle of the day, go into town, and come back. They were probably meeting, with that county lawyer around here who made them sign some kind of a non-disclosure agreement. Because by the time they got back here, they were like fumbling for words, and the son, 15-year-old son, who was like usually nonchalant about everything, he looked like he was scared out of his pants. like he'd seen a ghost or something. He couldn't even look at me. Oh, it's not the first time that's happened. So yeah, they're spreading the slander, the lies, and then threatening people to not work here, make them sign agreements. So that's what I think happened to change Dean's behavior. And, I hope that you'll explain it to us in part 8 of this ongoing West Virginia horror story saga. But it's certainly interesting for all the people out there that do purchase property, targeted people that move around a lot and are being harassed by law enforcement, sheriff's departments, etc. I mean, this is really out of control that they could be targeting women like this. These people can't stand women. They hate women. They despise women. They're afraid of women. And they're bullies to women. And they bully their own wives and girlfriends too, for the most part. But yeah, it's an organized crime network, tentacles in every place imaginable. This is how sick our society has become. And in the last video, where Karen Stewart says, let me just get it here. Karen Stewart says, and she's always so eloquent about these things, she says, gang stalking, the modern day Stasi program. And she had this to say about it 6 years ago. Fast forward 6 years plus. Welcome to Stasi America. You too can be a gang stalker. You too can be responsible for the downfall of this country. If you can't beat them, join them. If you see something, say something. Signing off for now.